to this now. Kamala Harris has accepted the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. She addressed the Democratic National Convention in Chicago from a campaign rally in Milwaukee. Now, Harris was endorsed yesterday. She won the nomination earlier this month following an online vote. It followed the shock withdrawal of incumbent U.S. President Joe Biden. Now, Harris will face Republican former President Donald Trump in November's vote. Harris also receiving the backing of former President Barack Obama and the former First Lady Michelle Obama. And the two were addressing the convention and saying that this is going to be a big fight. Let's speak now to Voice of America's Patsy Widakuswara, who is at the Democratic National Convention. Patsy, good evening to you and thank you for your time. Let's start with who's expected to address the convention today and what the mood is like ahead of that address.
Well, the mood is certainly of jubilation and extreme enthusiasm. I think you mentioned some of the speakers yesterday, Michelle and Barack Obama. They really riled up the crowd, and they were really effective attack dogs towards Donald Trump. Michelle Obama hit the nail on the head on the issue of race. She basically said Donald Trump is somebody who fears people like herself and her husband, who are hardworking, highly educated, successful people who just happen to be black. And Barack Obama also mocked Donald Trump in terms of his obsession with childish nicknames and also with crowd sizes. So these are, just kind of a warm-up of what is to come today. The big key headline is, of course, the vice presidential nominee Tim Walz will be taking the last spot of the speaking list of speakers tonight. Right now, it's still in the afternoon in Chicago, and so still a few more hours towards the start of the convention, which begins at 4 o'clock, about 2 hours from now in the afternoon. And Tim Walz is scheduled to speak at around 10 p.m. And of course, this is all building up to tomorrow, where Kamala Harris will be the last speaker of the convention. This whole week has been building up to her. The momentum, the enthusiasm, you can see this from, for example, from fundraising. The Democrats has just announced that ever since Joe Biden stepped aside and Kamala Harris became their new nominee, they have raised a whopping historic $500 million. This is from the campaign as well as the supporting group. So certainly Democrats are much more enthusiastic. They're much more energized. And there's also a sense of gratitude to President Joe Biden, who spoke on the first night of the convention on Monday. There was a lot of love and, chants of thank you, Joe, and we love you, Joe, knowing full well that this is a very different campaign than the one that President Joe Biden ran. And you can see this in the numbers. Kamala Harris is inching up in some polls, even edging beyond Donald Trump in national polls as well as battleground states.
Yeah. Patsy, despite the enthusiasm, the words of the former President Barack Obama overnight was that, make no mistake, it will be a fight. What is he warning against there? Complacency?
Complacency, and also just the fact that this is a very tight race. I mean, even though the polls are showing that Harris is catching up, it is still within the margin of error by most of the polls. So this is certainly going to be an uphill battle. Harris herself has positioned herself from the beginning up to now that she is the underdog candidate. Don't forget that most Americans do not know who Tim Walz is. Most Americans have only heard Harris as Biden's vice president. And, she's not known for her own big legislative achievements. Everything that she has achieved is attached to Biden, whether that is good or not. Obviously the Democrats like the policies, but not so much Republicans. And, the key thing is having independents pay attention and then being able to grab some of them to sway their votes towards Harris. That is what Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and no doubt other speakers, including Harris, will stress in this week's convention.
Yeah. Finally, Patsy, as we wrap, the big ticket items that are going to enthuse Americans either to go and vote or perhaps be less enthusiastic and simply sit at home. What are some of the big election issues?
some of the issues that are really key for Democrats, number one, is the freedom to choose. That is in terms of reproductive health. This is the issue of abortion that is really motivating a lot of Democrats. As you know, recently the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that abortion is no longer recognized nationally as a right. So this is certainly an issue that motivates Democrats, and other issues as well as social justice, as well as making sure that the people who need help in terms of economic support, these are some of the key economic policies that Harris just rolled out, including $25,000 for a first-time home buyer subsidy for down payment, up to $6,000 of child tax credit. These are really populist policies that's being rolled out, and favorite of the Democrats, but of course Republicans see this as a waste of money. So these are just some of the issues that's motivating them. And of course, the issue of democracy, right? The threat that Donald Trump poses towards democracy, that is something that a lot of Democratic leaders, including President Joe Biden, have stressed. So all of those issues are motivating voters, but still, there is still 11 weeks towards the November election. We'll see whether that enthusiasm translates to votes in the ballot box.
Patsy Widakuswara, thank you very much for your time and the update there live for us at the Democratic National Convention. And Patsy is the Voice of America White House correspondent.